bringing a Terry Pratchett story to life, you're just guaranteed joy, excitement, imagination, and beauty.
I just love it that it's this magical universe, but with a kind of human touch.
It's that animated world that you sort of want to climb into. You want to sort of bring it around yourself.
Smoked ham!
It's an adventure story that has cats, rats, and me in it.
It's a bit like Pied Piper, slightly twisted, with a bit more hot sauce and a bit of spice, with lots and lots and lots of rats.
Big scam with cats and rats.
Cat who can talk.
Mystery.
Adventure.
Greed.
Pipe-playing friend.
A scam.
Darkness.
Self-belief.
Clanship.
Spooky, but only a little bit.
Democracy. Go and have a look.
There's a message, and there's heart, and it's fabulous.
The original book from Terry Pratchett is now over 20 years old. So Maurice is a talking cat, and along with some intelligent rodents and a young lad called Keith, they go from town to town, scamming the townsfolk. They pretend to be a plague of rats. And then one day they arrive at the town called Bad Blintz, and they meet a young girl called Melissa, and that's where it all goes horribly wrong.
Well, Terry was on tour, and we found ourselves in the Pied Piper bar of the Palace Hotel in San Francisco. And Terry seemed a little bit distracted. And what he was distracted by was the Maxfield Parrish painting that was hanging behind the bar. And he was telling me the story of Maxfield Parrish, how the painting came about, how he painted it, why it happened to be there in San Francisco. And then there was a pause. And then Terry, out of the blue, just told me the story, the beginning, the middle, and the end of the Amazing Maurice. He just created it there. It was fascinating. And it was only 18 months after that that Terry won the Carnegie Medal for it, which is absolutely astounding.
It was in 2015 already that we got to know the agent for Terry Pratchett's book rights. We, as Ulysses, we started with the script process, so we optioned the book rights, and then we started to find a scriptwriter, which is Terry Rossio, and who was just brilliant in adapting this novel into a screenplay.
Terry Rossio, I mean, he's only the second highest grossing screenwriter in Hollywood history. And there I am, very modestly sitting in front of him, giving him my opinion on how Maurice should play out. And he just said, yeah, that sounds great, but how about this? And he just gave it to me with both barrels, and it was just playing the movie into my brain. It was a masterclass in screenwriting happening right in front of me.
After we developed the script, we started to find partners on this project, and then we came across Andrew Baker from UK, from Cantilever Media. And this was a good moment to agree that we want to do this together.
Given Sky's history in the UK with Terry Pratchett adaptations, they were my first port of call. But right from the get-go, Sky were really interested in what we were doing. And ultimately, they are our major partner on this film. And without them, you know, we wouldn't have been able to make it at all.
Good thing is that we already knew Toby Genkel and Florian Westermann. So we asked them if they would like to direct this film as well. It was no question.
And the good thing on this project is that we were only 2 animation studios. So communication was quite straight. Sometimes we are 5 studios, and then, of course, it's much more complex.
And the very special thing about this film is it was completely done during the pandemic. We just started the production when we had to send everybody to the remote, to their places, which was a challenge for the animation studios more than for us as the production company.
Yes. We Skyped a lot, or we talked a lot on video conferences, and everybody was at home. So it was really a pity that we never met.
Bringing Terry Pratchett to life is difficult. You have to look for the essence of something. You can't just slavishly copy the novel, because the novels work very differently to film structure. A lot of what Terry was fascinated by is wordplay, and that doesn't always translate. And so you have to sort of be on your guard against that, which I quite like, because it puts you right back to what's this film about, who are the characters, what's happening to them, what's getting in their way. And that's really the art of adaptation.
Long before this film came along, I was a huge Pratchett fan. I'm that annoying person in the tube that laughs out loud whilst reading one of Sir Terry Pratchett's many books.
I just love his take on fairy tales. I love the idea of Discworld. Like, if it was a place, I would go on holiday. But I just love the idea that these fairy tales can have other legs and they can come off and become these whole other stories.
The books that you grow up reading become a part, they're almost like a part of your family. They become so beloved that I remember when I got this and I called my brother and I was like, I'm doing a Terry Pratchett animation, and he lost his mind and was like, that's the coolest thing in the world. Yes! Come on, get it on the CV.
I was a fan of Pratchett. I'd read some of the books when I was a teenager, especially some of the graphic novel sort of versions of some of the Discworld stuff. The artwork was just brilliant, you know, the world building of it all.
All creatives are trying to come up with a unique voice, and it's really, really difficult to do that. And it's sort of almost, that's the lightning in a bottle. When you get somebody who's truly great, I think that they've got something that's very unique, and he's absolutely got that.
I worked with Terry for over 2 decades. After he passed away, the responsibility to run the literary estate landed on myself and Terry's daughter Rhianna, and it's run from here, from Terry's desk in the wilds of Wiltshire. So this is where it all happens. It was a massive, massive industry. Discworld, 41 books, 100 million books sold worldwide. That's a phenomenal responsibility. Obviously, there are no more novels. There's no more Terry, but the adaptations into film and TV and beyond all comes down to us. It's our responsibility to ensure that the quality control that Terry would have insisted on in his lifetime maintains.
I hope people who haven't really discovered Pratchett yet feel a certain curiosity to discover more of his work. I hope Terry Pratchett fans feel relief that we've done a good job.
I would vote for Maurice.
Well, obviously it's Maurice. Obviously it's Maurice.
For me, easily is Melissa.
Keith really sneaked into my heart.
Dangerous Beans.
I just love the rats.
Favourite character, I have to say, is Sardines.
Maurice. He's just a delicious character. I love him.
I think Melissa is a wonderful character.
And this is Keith. He is the most honest man I've ever met.
So, tell me your name.
Keith?
Oh, that won't do. No hint of mystery, it just hints of Keith.
Maurice, well, he's a cat, for one thing. But you probably knew that. He's devious, he's sly, he's smooth, he's charming, and a bit of a psychopath, I would think. He's a survivor, I think, above all. But then cats are, aren't they? They are all about survival. I don't know that I'm not one of nature's natural Maurices. You know, clever, cunning, manipulative winners. That's not how I see myself at all. I see myself as a bumbling idiot who's just lucky to get through the day. So to have the chance to play a character with these kinds of powers and that sort of charisma is tremendously enjoyable. I wish I could do it more often.
You don't need to be clever to see that this is a bad situation and might be running away from quite soon.
Well, what enticed me to accept the role of Melissa was a couple of things. Animation, number one. I'm like, yep. What do you want me to do? What is it? I will do it. I would like to do that. And then, obviously, more than that, Terry Pratchett. It's such pedigree. His work is so treasured, and it's something that I definitely grew up reading with my brother. It was just like a complete no-brainer.
I was expecting something horrible yet interesting, some ghastly clue that would advance the plot.
So Melissa, as a character, she is an incredibly optimistic, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed young lady who lives in her imagination and lives for reading and lives for stories and lives to the fullness of life.
And you get me loads of cash, right? It's all a big swindle!
She's got us banged to rights, boss.
You won't tell on us, will you?
A talking cat and a talking tap-dancing rat. They'll think I'm making up stories again.
What drew me to the role of Darktown? Well, I just finished working on a show called Good Omens with Neil Gaiman, which was written by Terry Pratchett, and I just love his world and I love the characters that he creates. So when this came to the table, I was like, yeah, I have to do it. It was like an instant yes. Darktown is like, he's like this analytical, big rat. I kind of likened him to an officer. in the army.
You, come here. Attach the string.
Me? I don't know if I can.
Quick, do it!
Okay, all right.
Hello, my name is Joe Sugg, and I play Sardines, the rat with the hat, in The Amazing Maurice. He's a gentle rat. He's a show rat. Yeah, he loves the stage. I'd say he's charismatic, and he's a lover of the arts as well.
She's just so lovable because she asks all of the stupid questions that you kind of want to ask them sometimes. Oh, I do anyway. I always want to ask the stupid questions. Luckily, there's Google now. But before then, I would be that person to go, what? And everyone looks at you like, don't be stupid. And I love that about her because you got to ask the stupid questions.
Well, it's one of the great debates, isn't it? Is it Maurice or Maurice? I don't know if it'll ever really be settled. Perhaps philosophers will be arguing over this for centuries to come.
How many times? It's Maurice. Maurice.
How do you pronounce Maurice? You pronounce Maurice like this. You do not pronounce it Maurice. Maurice is a intellectual, highbrow, pretentious Frenchman. He's like an artist. Do you know what I mean? You don't get artists called Maurice. You get artists called Maurice. This is where Terry Pratchett's like, it's actually Maurice. No! Oh no. Well, I look stupid.
No.
Maurice. Maurice. He says it all the time. Maurice, Maurice, Maurice. I say Maurice. Maurice.
Maurice.
Well, obviously, there's only one correct pronunciation, and that is Morris. Or Maurice. Take your pick, honestly.
Well, it depends who you ask. If you ask Morris, he'll tell you it's Maurice, unless he's in the presence of death, who will remind him his actual name is Morris.
Maurice!
It's Maurice.
Anxiety.
The thing we definitely share is we both have a vivid imagination. That much is for sure. I lived in mine as a kid, still as an adult, and I feel like that is probably the biggest connection that we have.
Are you asking me if I've got similarities with a rat? Are you saying I'm a rat? No, I'm joking. No, if I got any similarities, I look kind of big on the outside and quite tough, but actually I'm quite gentle, really.
Ha! Welcome to the rescue squad. Mission completed. Let's go.
We knew he is a ginger cat from the beginning, so Maurice was always red hairs. And yeah, it took a while until we got his fur right.
First, it's drawn, and then you have to bring it to the computer. You have to transfer it into a 3D model, and then, of course, also some changes need to be adapted. And so it's really a long process until you say, yeah, that's our cat.
This was our wig shop. We used one of the designs of Melissa and gave her a few variations of different hairstyles with longer hair, with shorter hair. Some stuff looked like made from the 80s. But we tried different things with her just to get the perfect styling for this leading lady.
Suddenly the director, it was Toby, who had the idea, why don't we make her short-haired? Suddenly she was there.
So when it came to Keith, I think the process was pretty straightforward, particularly when we knew who would be the voice cast for him. We know very fast what the design would look like.
One of my favourite characters of Terry's is Death, and obviously he pops up in The Amazing Maurice. I feel that they've done a really good job of capturing him, and it sort of remains very true to my original design. The hands initially were in black gloves and there weren't any feet. We sort of discussed it and agreed that the hands are very expressive and it would be good to actually have skeletal hands, so they changed that. It sort of then fits with what I've done, but also hopefully it fits with how people would imagine the Grim Reaper to look.
So my role as character supervisor on The Amazing Maurice was to oversee the entire character department, and that involved taking the pre-production designs and concept art from 2D into 3D. So we took them into modelling. We did the look dev, the groom. We also rigged the characters ready for the animators to take him and bring them to life. So I really enjoyed working on Keith as a character because he is this really sweet, down-to-earth guy, but he's also got a really lovely kind of squishy face. And there's a really nice moment in the movie where Melissa literally just grabs his face and smushes it. And that was a bit different, but it was really fun to work on that and get that to look kind of fun and appealing.
Remember what you've learned and use it.
But I haven't learned anything.
Go get him.
Okay.
There were a few quite technically challenging characters in this film. The one that stands out for me is probably Maurice himself. The directors really wanted him to be tangible and beautiful and appealing, but at the same time, he's an alley cat. So, you know, striking that balance was quite tough. Additionally, his rigging was quite difficult. He walks on all fours for most of the film. There are a few sequences where he stands on his hind legs, he sings, he dances, and that was a bit difficult to kind of get working in a rigging solution.
Well, for the Pied Piper, if you see the design, he's designed like half man, half spider. He has this very long legs. And we wanted him to be disturbing, yet funny, because this still is a children's movie. And so you need to have, you know, they need a little bit of a comical relief every now and then. So we had to find this perfect mixture between clown and menace. The first thing we did, let him have this very, very, very weird walk. So I was starting to walk in my own kitchen, I think, as I remember it was, and climbed tables and stairs because we wanted him to be able to climb stuff like a spider. Well, it's what we have to do sometimes to illustrate to the animators what we want. And then sometimes, as directors, we have the honor to make proper fool out of ourselves. So if like somebody wants to blackmail me with videos, there's plenty.
Half the things they say about me are not true.
Our job, Toby and I, was to sort of make sure that physics felt right between the two worlds. The kind of the weight of the human characters and the rats felt different. They felt like they were of two different sort of scales.
We had to find a good system, you know, when are there rats? When will they behave like rats? When will they behave like humans? When, for example, when they run fast, they have to go from A to B. They kind of snap back to rattiness and just scurry around the floor. But when they stop, they get on the hind legs and they start gesturing. That's very difficult to build those characters in a way that they can do all of it. Sardines, who is a dancing rat, to help the animators, we had a dancer there who was doing the Charleston, and he was doing tap dance references for us. We filmed and then sent back to the animator so he could have that as a reference.
What is the rat doing?
The Charleston, I think.
When you look at this, what I have here, this is our mood board. This is what Heiko Henschel, the production designer, did. This is pretty much just a mood image for the lighting situation of each and every sequence. And we start off, as you see here, with beautiful day, but it's not very long in the movie that the sun is going down, sun is setting, we're getting darker, and now we're going into the night. We're pretty much staying into the night. We have colorful moments with nice candlelight and everything, so it doesn't feel like too dark and too sinister. This was a bit of a challenge, but I think we did a good job.
So I was basically supervising all the CGI for the environments. So we had some amazing concept art, and our job was to take that art and translate it into all the actual computer graphics that you see in the film. There were lots of quite amazing environments on the film, to be honest. The set just outside the city of Bad Blintz was perhaps my favorite to work on. It was very challenging because of the complexities involved with natural environments, but also we had to integrate it with the city sort of part of the environment as well, and I think it came along together really well. We had shots from rats' point of views as well as humans' point of views, so just making sure that the environments work from both POVs is quite a challenge, both again creatively and technically as well.
I think the overall design is just completely delicious, but from the moment that you leave that world and you leave the narrator's world and you enter the actual world of Maurice and the rats, I just find the look of it, the design of it. I mean, I'm tempted to say the way it's lit, but of course that makes no sense in animation. There's no light. There's a representation of light, but it's not actual light. I find that app just mesmerizing. It's that animated world that you sort of want to climb into. You want to sort of bring it around yourself. Well, it awakens the child in all of us, doesn't it?
The job of an animator is making the characters move and give them life.
The director tells us what the character is supposed to do and think, and we are the ones who actually move them and hopefully satisfy the director's wish.
First we do a blocking, which is a very rough animation to promote our vision of the shot to the directors. Once they have approved this, then we refine our animation. And piece by piece, we come to the final result.
What you see here on my screen now is the raw rendering as it comes out of the computer in 3D. What the rendering guys deliver to me as the compositor are the different parts of that make up the image. For example, the sky that is in the background, then the background with all the vegetation and stuff, but without the characters. Because we have the characters here separately, and in this case, this is all we need. We need the sky, the BG, and the characters. And what we also have is a lot of different masks for the elements. For example, for the characters here, I have different masks for the white fur of Maurice, for the orange fur of Maurice, for his tail, for the eyes. I have a specula, that is how glossy his fur is. The image is pretty much split up into 1,000 pieces, and we can tweak each and every one of them. When we compare how the image looked before the compositing process, which is like this, and this is how it looks after. So I hope everybody agrees that this looks a lot better.
Well, that went well.
I noticed in the mayor's office they'd used the bust that I'd sculpted of Terry. It sort of crops up as an Easter egg. It was fun capturing the likeness of Terry and the expressions that were Terry, so it was lovely to see it in the film.
Oh, you want to buy your way out?
Something like...
I suppose as animation director, you might think that I have control over every single decision that's made, over every acting choice that happens in every scene. But the truth is, every animator brings their own to every shot, and every little nuance, every little gesture can come from anyone in the team. I loved working with a team in Germany. Well, it was very easy, actually, because Flo and Toby just oozed sort of enthusiasm and passion and love for this story, and Terry Pratchett. And there was this underlying fear of letting down the Pratchett fans. So there was enormous sort of weight. We felt that we had to get it right. So I think on pretty much every level, we saw eye to eye. It was a pleasure. It was a really easy film to make.
People think it's about having the names. It isn't. It's actually about having a quality of acting that gives the animation team something to work with and something to embody and to literally to animate. And we had such lovely extremes, from Hugh's dry, sort of sardonic delivery to the menace of David Thewlis, to the sort of chirpy, plucky Amelia Clarke, who's not going to let anything get in her way. Gemma Arterton playing Peaches with all the sort of innocence in the world is just so lovely. Arian Bakari as Darktan, the sort of military leader of the Rats. David Tennant and his wisdom in playing Dangerous Beans. And all of those things you can hear in the voices, and that's why it's really important when you choose voices.
So the cast performance has a huge, huge impact. When I read the script, I felt Keith was a bit flat for me. There was something lacking. And all of a sudden, when Himish brought his, I don't know, vulnerability and, I don't know, this sort of awkwardness to it, I really felt it kind of brought it to another level.
When I started working on how to bring Keith to life, as it were, vocally, I did have to think about his physicality, even though, you know, no one's going to be seeing any of that. Obviously, his sort of nervous disposition was something that I wanted to work on in terms of the register of his voice. But also a lot of it was working with Toby and the team and sort of them telling me what they needed. It was the first time that I've done an animated film, what I learned was that you have to really go over the top more than you would, hopefully, when you're acting in front of a camera.
Maurice!
You need so much range and tonality in the voice for everyone to then animate too. And that was something I had to sort of push myself to get to, I think.
Hey, what's this? Kill a lot? That sounds bad.
So the way that I prepared my Melissa voice, it was less about her timbre and more about the speed in which she talks and like when she gets excited, what does she do? And when we got to the recording studio, as often happens, there is a kind of like, no, but sound like you. Like, don't be anyone else though. Like, do sound identifiable as you, as Amelia.
What? Who's to say a narrator can't also appear in the story she's telling?
But honestly, it just came out. Like, it often happens when I'm reading something, a voice will just come out and you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that works. That seems right.
Maybe you're just the sympathetic friend who serves as a sounding board to help me resolve my ethical dilemmas.
Bringing Nourishing to life was extremely hilarious, actually. I worked very closely with Toby, and when I say closely, he was literally in the booth with me on an iPad because, as you know, it was COVID times, so he couldn't be there in person, but it was actually great to have him in the booth with me because that never happens. Normally they're in another room and you have to wait, there's silence while you wait, and then you hear the voice going, now, could you try it like this? It was great because he could just talk to me with all the facial expressions and everything. I was trying lots of different voices at first, and then we settled on one particular one. And yeah, just making ridiculous noises in a room. I couldn't believe that that's what I do for a living. So yeah, it was great.
Sardines, here I come!
Oh, you! I thought that I would...
He's, strong, authoritative. So finding that voice, I was thinking, what would I do to find that voice? So I went for a real kind of gravelly, deeper voice to embody the character. But then I found there's another softer side, which was more vulnerable, slightly a bit more sensitive, especially when he found his friends were in trouble. So you kind of wanted a more conversational kind of voice for that. So I'd go for a softer tone. And then it was great direction from Toby, so I was quite easily guided into this.
One of the most interesting items used to create sounds in the sound design process would be an item that we used to create Mr. Clicky's voice, an instrument called flexotone, which is a piece of metal which you can bend with your thumb, and that changes the pitch of the sound that it creates. Combining that with a violin bow lets you, in a way, perform the character, and the sound is quite metallic and squeaky, which is what we wanted because he's essentially a mechanical rat.
So you watched the scene with Mr. Clicky zooming about, and you actually used your violin bow on this metal instrument, didn't you?
Yeah.
And played it to follow his actions and create his voice as he went about.
And to sort of present the emotions that he might be feeling in a given scene or in a given situation in the film.
Yeah. And I think you played that instrument so hard you actually broke part of it, didn't you?
Oh yeah,
snapped off. Yeah.
It was an intense scene from Mr. Clicky.
Yeah.
On the double, soldier. What are you waiting for? Time to do your duty.
So Bossman's a very unusual character and needed a very unusual sound to suit his actions. We had heavy, creaky leather, more softer, more kind of rustly leather. We had the sound of cabbages and also pak choi kind of squeaking and sort of being manipulated.
One of the notes from the director as we worked on it was to make sure we can feel his moves or sort of are able to accentuate his moves.
Almost like standing next to an elephant as it walked past you, feeling that weight.
Yeah, so some of these moves are horse breaths, which I've processed in a certain way to make them really like bassy and low and heavy. Just a bunch of weirdness, really.
Yeah.
Which is what this character is.
He's very strange. He's very strange.
Strange, you say? Not that strange.
Yeah, so I was trying to make motifs for the different characters. So the boss man is in an electric guitar world. Whenever you can kind of see him, he's got a electric guitar tuned down an octave that's bowed through some distortion. and actually along with a very low-down pseudo drum, which is a very sort of like bassy drum. So when you cut to a scene of the boss man, you suddenly get this boom, 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 and it all comes down low, and there's this sort of bowed thing, and it just sounds weird and odd and different, and he is that character.
Have you considered that what you have here with the missing food is a mystery?
Before they animated, I actually had to write flute pieces for Keith to play. You know, that was difficult to do from the start, but also towards the end of the movie, he finds his voice, and one of those flute themes is then morphed into the sort of main theme for him. And then with the rats, I've got something called a string drum, which is drum brushes played on the back of a sort of dulcimer turned over that's out of tune. And it's got a real clanginess about it. So when you see them running, this sound always comes in and you see their feet and they're kind of running along. Working with Gabby was fantastic. I think what made the songs that, you know, that have been made for this film is that they have been made for this film. In so many instances nowadays, you'll finish a movie and then you go to license a song and the song has nothing to do with the film at all.
For the brief, I mean, the book was the best brief. Knowing the story, for me, that was being yourself, honesty, community, and music, art, friendship. So I made the song with my co-writer, Liz Horseman, and we worked on the production together and the lyrics and putting everything together whilst keeping Tom in the loop. It's just so magical and such, like, an amazing treat to have the score sent back to you, stuck in the song that you wrote. And it's just a really beautiful collaboration that everyone kind of has their own little areas for it to all just come together and be this thing that all fits. It's really, like, it's magical.
I am obsessed with cats. I'm not a crazy cat lady, I'm a crazy cat lady, yeah.
I do. I like cats very much. I like the fact that they don't need to be liked.
I chose to play a rat because I'm not into cats. I do like cat memes. You know, those ones when the cat slaps someone in the face, and they always put the big psh, psh. So I could spend the whole day like watching cat memes.
I could certainly match a cat for a number of hours slept in the day.
You know the ones that are like, there's like a lot of fur? Yeah, I'd be one of them.
I'd be a cheetah. I'd be fast, furious, beautiful. You think you could tame me, but inside I'm very wild. Cut that one out.
Well, I had a trainer. What I really wanted to be able to do was to jump onto a high shelf, which I could do. I mean, after about 6 months of solid training, I could do. I couldn't do it now.
I mean,
Is
I'd
there
like
anything you wanted to say?
I mean, Hugh Laurie was a real pain. To be
I know.
honest.
It was awful. I mean, the complaints you gave me. I
honestly,
don't know how we managed. I really don't.
No.
Those blue M&Ms. Do you know how many times
I was going to
looked
walk
for those
out.
blue M&Ms?
I started to do a lot of research into MI5. I kind of did a little bit of like Taekwondo. So really, I was channeling Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible.
Honestly,
You know,
he
it was crazy.
Constantly demanding different microphones,
don't know.
glasses of water, the script.
Has she asked for the script?
He asked for the script.
Do you know, I just can't work like this. I'm sorry.
And cuts. Brilliant.